Welcome to another Scaling Brokerage podcast. We have a special guest today, brokerage owner Wesley Knapp, who's going to be sharing his experience, how he started as a brokerage, how he navigated through challenges, and overall his success scaling his business. So, Wesley, thanks for hopping on today. And if you don't mind, could you share a little bit about your background and what got you even started as a brokerage owner?
Tristan, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on here, and thank you so much for just delving into this question, because it's there's a lot of things that are put out there, but this is not one of them that's spoken of very often. So we're all trying to figure it out along the way. It's kind of like the ultimate DIY project. But anyway, my name's Wesley Knapp. I own a brokerage in Atlanta called Knapp Realty, and we're about just under 200 agents, about 4 offices located around the metro area of Atlanta, and have really started just, we've been in business since 2003. So I've been in business for almost 22 years. And like I said, it is the ultimate DIY project. It is like figuring it out and asking questions and failing and all the things along the way. So I don't know if I have all the answers, but I certainly have all the things not to do.
Well, let's start there. I mean, so what got you to even open up your brokerage in the first place?
I was good. No, well, I was 26, and if you can picture this, it was 2002 in Atlanta, and there was a lot of mortgage fraud going on. There was a lot of Atlanta was one of the hardest hit areas of mortgage fraud, and watching that go on in the Atlanta metro area. I mean, it was so rampant in certain neighborhoods, and literally people would call you up and ask for a cash out refi, or they'd ask for, just a lot of fraudulent activity. And I felt like this was an industry that needed more integrity. It needed more watchfulness and just sincerity. And I felt like even at that young of age, I didn't really know that I was going to start a brokerage and it was going to be here this long and all that stuff. But I did know that if you do business the right way, good things will happen over time. And that level of integrity and that level of promise to your clients will work out over time.
That's great. And so what would you say, like when starting your brokerage, what were some of I know you said that there's a lot of things you could talk about that not to do. What would you say were some of like the biggest challenges starting off?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, starting off, we started off without brick and mortar. And we also started off, I was young. I didn't have a lot of capital behind me. I would say, and you kind of have to get to a certain size before it really pays for itself, unfortunately. So the question always is, when you're starting your brokerage, is why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you want to open a large brokerage? Are you doing this because you just don't want to pay fees? Because, if you just have a couple agents, it's probably cheaper to just pay the fees. You've got to get almost to, 15 or 20 agents before, a lot of times it's not. Now, some people are doing this for branding, so they feel like then, the branding, my name is on the sign. That's a branding for me. At 200 agents, it doesn't really matter. But for the first, 10 or 20 agents, it did matter. But in general, I would say, I would look internally to yourself and say, what am I doing this for? And have an intentional answer to that question. If you don't have an intentional answer to that question, then you're probably haven't figured out your pro forma or your business strategy or your marketing strategy or what that is. And because, with bringing on new agents, you have to train those agents. You have to, and so the strategy needs to be, hey, this is why I'm doing this. And then it also needs to be, and this is what my goal of it is. And if you haven't figured that out yet, don't do it. Wait until you have those two answers, because you'll notice so many agents, they'll get 3 or 4 of them together, they'll start a brokerage, and 2 years later they'll break apart. And unfortunately, when you see that time and time again, now if you're just a one person and you're like, I don't want bricks and mortar, I'm just trying to save the fees, and I'm a broker and I'm just doing this for myself, for my own branding, well, that's a little bit different situation. I'm not sure it's smart or not smart. I mean, you're having to deal with the earnest money. You're trying to create your own business cards. You have to create your signs. I mean, good Lord. And we've gone through, I bet in the 22 years we've been in business now, the versions of signs that we've had, how much time it takes to develop a good quality sign. We have the best sign we've ever had, and I still think we can improve on it. So it is a time intensive business than when you just walk into a company and they say, hey, here's your 4 options.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I'm not sure I fully answered your question, but I might have answered some other questions.
No, it does, because we talk to a lot of brokerage owners, and where you've already gotten at the 200 agent mark, that's incredible. A lot of our listeners are anywhere from 5, 10, 15. Some have 100 plus agents, but I think that's a huge takeaway when it comes to scaling the business, is really, what is your why? Because without a big why, I have a business partner, Alan. He has a real estate brokerage. He's hired over 400 agents in 4 years, and without a big why behind it, it's going to be difficult to keep pushing. I've seen the recruiting, what needs to be done on the back end in order to make this a reality and, really have a self-sustaining business. So I think that's a great point. That brings me to my next question when it comes to recruiting in general. So you have 200 agents.
Yep.
How did you attract those agents to your brokerage in the past 20 years?
I think there's 3 or 4 reasons. One is our fees are a little bit lower than a lot of the competition. So that's the probably easy way to do that. Are we the lowest? No. Are we the middle or the highest? Probably not. We're somewhere low middle. Number 2 is we give 10% of our profit each year back to the community. And that's not all altruistic. Some of that works as a marketing budget, which you give to local charities. And I do believe that if you give to the communities that you service give back to you. And so I would, and in fact, when it's the hardest to write the checks is the times you're probably supposed to write it the most. So I would always encourage you to just constantly give. And number 3, I think that we attract a high, we tend to, we still get new agents. So don't get me wrong, but we're able to train them and have, staff to do that. But in addition to that, we are, a place that agents know that have high integrity brokerage. And so you want to maintain that. So when you can get that experienced agent who already sells, $2 to $5 or $7 million in real estate, those are revenue producing agents, and they're good quality agents that you want to your bottom line. And more importantly, most of those people are people I want to hang out with. That's recruiting. There's the recruiting that is like, hey, oh gosh, this person makes a lot of money. And then there's the, oh gosh, you know what? If I'm going to take a call a day from that person for the next 5 years, is this person somebody that I want to spend time with? And usually if it is, that's the reason why they're doing well in their business, because they're enjoyable to be around. But also, it's your time too. So it's not just about the bottom line or the top line. It's a lot of times is, gosh, you know what? I just kind of like hanging out with this person.
Yeah, absolutely. And so where do these agents come from? Because I'm assuming you have 200 agents now. So I know you probably weren't just consistently recruiting 10 agents. You probably had some sporadic growth. You probably had some, I've seen with brokerages, they lose agents. It happens. People leave the industry. What strategies do you have in place to find new talent and get in front of those agents that potentially might be looking for new opportunities?
Well, and I could always do a better job there. That's probably something that I could spend more time at, and our staff as well. I do believe that the best hire is an organic hire, where somebody in your firm does well, and then their friends who are in the business see them do well, and then they say, oh, tell me about your brokerage. And as a result of that, then 200 people out there recruiting is much better than Wesley Knapp recruiting, I guarantee you. And quite honestly, even if it's 30 or 40 people out there recruiting, it's better than Wesley Knapp recruiting. So the answer is what I try to do is encourage, not just monetarily, but really more just saying, hey, listen, we've got a good thing going here. You'd be no different than, hey, listen, you'd be remiss not to have your best friend use you as an agent. You'd be remiss in not having your best friend, be it Keller Knapp. So I think it is. Most of our best recruits come from organic recruiting.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you currently don't have any other strategies in place. You're just, everything's organic.
We highly encourage, don't get me wrong. Every once in a while, I will call up an agent and say, hey, gosh, you would be a good fit here. Give me a call if you ever change. So I'll definitely, make a call a week on that. And I try to make a call a week on that. But then I get frustrated when they go to another firm. They're like, you were supposed to call me when, you told me you were going to do that. And, but I've got to be the big boy and understand that, yes, a lot of times it's just catching somebody at the right time and right day, that they had a bad month, or they had a bad quarter, or they got in a fight with their broker. Some of it's, not skill and not strategy, it's luck, but still you got to catch them on the right day.
Yeah, no, that's it. I think that's one of the most important things. And that's why, retargeting and staying in front of them and just making sure they always remember who you are as a brokerage is very important. Cause like you said, it's a lot of it is, right timing, kind of just make those deposits and make sure you're top of mind when they first come across. But that's incredible. I mean, I like I said, my business partner, Alan, he's hired 400 agents.
Amazing.
Yeah, he did that through specific strategies to get them in the door, So it's really neat to see a brokerage grow organically when it comes to 200 agents.
Well, and I would say, the biggest thing is you got to turn around and make those people successful. So, if I went from 200 to 400 next month, I mean, it would be an oh my goodness moment. And because to get 200 people, do we have the onboarding ability to do that? Do we have the ability to, if they're all new agents, do we have the ability to train those people? And so to some degree, could we grow faster than we're probably growing right now? Yes. Could we grow that much faster? Probably not. We're not staffed to do that. So I think, in that, you got to know where you're at and whether your staff has a ability or you have bandwidth. I mean, if you're 5 agents and you're going to go from 5 agents to 10 agents, and you're a broker who's still selling, which is how the numbers work, then you got to make sure. And guess what? Those next 5 agents, you probably could sell a few houses, then get them up and running. I mean, the hardest thing, especially when you're in that 5 to 25 agents range, is if you're a owner, broker, seller, it's hard for you to justify spending time on the brokerage because you can sell more and do that. If you now flip that around, if you want to make a long-term, asset of the business and potentially merge or potentially have something to sell or to give to your children or something like that, whatever the instance is, then, to some degree, you should keep growing it and see where it goes. But especially in that 5 to 25 range, a lot of times it's you could sell a few more houses and do the same.
Yeah. No, yeah, we definitely see that all the time. I mean, with the 5 to 15, and I mean, really, what was it for you? What would you say was like kind of the point where you were like, okay, I can relax, or not relax, but I can focus on the wrong word in the real estate industry.
I was going to say, bless your heart if you think you could relax.
Yeah, no. When were you able to really focus on the business rather than being in production?
That's a good question. I would say, well, there's probably 2 things. One is I have to let some things go. So then it's a lot of that is my own, because I could produce and I could also broker and I could also recruit. So most of it was me working on myself and making sure that I would give the opportunity for the staff to handle certain situations. So I guess most of the time I would get in the way of myself is the honest answer, and not because we like doing deals. I mean, I'm a good deal maker. So for me to take that time and spend it on other agents and developing them and that, I will say the best thing for me to do to develop my staff and for me to give up autonomy in that regard, or control, I guess is probably better, and give some autonomy to it, is to go on vacation. When I go on vacation, my staff grows and I give some stuff up. So that is probably the number one, because if I want to spend time with my kids on vacation, I can't work, 10, 12 hours a week, 10, 12 hours a day. And so, I mean, that's like a forced motivation to I don't know, get rid of a few items, push it onto my staff, and get out of the production mode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, regarding the growing the team and everything, what does that look like at your brokerage? Like for anyone who's maybe has the the ambitions and the goals to grow to which a lot of brokerages do, to hit that 200 agent mark. What does that look like to have, like team wise? What do you have to have?
That's a good question. First of all, you have to have we call ourselves family. So our constant mindset is you're growing the family, and the difference between a large corporate company and us is making it feel more like a mom and pop business, a family entity. And that's easy to do in that 5 to 25. As you go from 25 to 200, you've got to set clear goals that you're going to try to maintain that feel, even though you're growing. And so that's set with some of your senior agents that they know that, but at some point it's all, the senior people that you mentored need to now mentor other people along the way. And that to whom much is given, much is expected. As you keep going down, everybody's got to help each other out. Everybody, all tides rise, right? When everybody's helping each other out. So, and we've set that example. And as a result of setting that example, I think that when people say, "Hey, why are you with Knapp versus a Keller Williams or a Remax or a Berkshire Hathaway?" And a lot of it is because we have a team environment across the board. That doesn't mean compensation as a team. That doesn't mean you're marketing yourself as a team. That means the people around you are working as a team to improve each other all the time in every situation. And as a result, everybody's growing. So, and that helps in recruiting, that helps in retention. And also that helps in just, people feeling better about themselves. Like, why am I here? Well, I'm here because we're all, what I'm saying? It's like, it's one thing if you have a team of 4 brokers helping 200 people out. It's another thing if you have 200 people saying, "Hey man, you need a painter today. Hey man, I need an electrician. Do you know of anybody? Hey, I got the survey problem. Can anybody help me work it out? Or which attorney would you use on this?" Or, there's 100 things that we can come up with, and 200 people answering that question is much better than 4 brokers.
Yeah. And how do you, make sure that these agents feel that and that they feel comfortable, how do you create that community with all the agents? Because it sounds like you've been able to create that environment for the agents to actually work as a team where you're not necessarily just relying on admin to do things. You guys are, collaborating and figuring out problems. So how do they go about that? Is it direct? Do you have a community set up? And how do you promote for the agents to do that, to leverage one another?
Well, I think in any, and usually our staff rock. And so, but a lot of it has to come from me and set the example. I say, you want to grow your business, work on yourself.
Yeah.
You want to be a better leader, work on yourself. You want to be a better person, work on yourself. All those things. So to some degree, I have to set the standard as to here's the standard that I expect of myself, and therefore I expect it from all the people around me. And it's and we turn people away. I turned one away yesterday, and who wanted to join us, and he did not meet the standard of, and I felt bad about it because I was like, gosh, I should be able to mentor that out of that guy. And then I was like, you know what? Don't feel bad about it, man. That is not a mentorable person. That is not somebody we would just want to, we're not going to spend a lot of people time with that person mentoring them if they're not part of the same culture and the same theme. So if you can't set a standard for the culture in your environment, and you can't characterize that and explain it to people, and they can't feel it and know what it is and what differentiates yourself, then you're not, that starts right at recruiting. At the minute you recruit, you got to say, hey, here's the culture here, here's the standard here, and here's why we want you to be a part of this. And if they don't buy into that right then they probably shouldn't be part of your organization.
Yeah. How many agents would you say probably on average on like a monthly basis want to join your brokerage? And
good question. I would say we're probably at 1 or 2 a month.
1 or 2 a month.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and there's peak times that somehow happen that we might go up to 3 or 4, but it's probably at 1 or 2 a month. And then, but I probably meet with somebody every week that they're getting licensed, they're thinking about it. It's an extension of relationship. But yeah, no, and even this week I've well, it's Tuesday and I met with 2 people, so maybe it's a little bit higher than that,
Great. Yeah.
but it's constant. It is a and to some degree, I don't care. It's easier because I own the business to say this than somebody who might be on staff in this call, who's getting compensated somehow. But to some degree, my goal is to try to help the person find the right place for themselves, because you don't want them to come in, you to train them and then them leave. Or you kind of say, hey, are we meeting you where you're at this time, and do we have the best place for you? And if that is, then we've all seen that agent that leaves to a different brokerage every year for some reason or another. And there's that version of that doesn't sell, and they just keep going, and it's always the broker's fault. And they just keep going from brokerage to brokerage until they get out of the industry. And you're not helping that person by encouraging them to move to your organization. The quicker that we can get to is, why are you not selling, and why are you frustrated, and why is this not working? And if it's and you'd be the best person to do is to say, hey, really, as a mentor, the reason why this isn't working is because of I remember sitting with a guy, and he was ultimately he was getting about 20 to 30% of his leads, and we sat down and he gave me his pitch, and we changed about 4 words in his pitch, and all of a sudden I would say he went from Eeyore to Tigger, and and literally real time, and he went from a 30% to about a 70 to 80% hit rate, just by changing a few words in his approach. And I think as a broker, recruiting's that way, getting the listings that way, getting the buyers that way. If you're not succeeding in that, give that spiel to somebody else and say, gosh, would you want to join us? And if the answer is no, then be willing to change. Yeah.
No, that's great advice. And I think that's a great thing you pointed out there, is to not just attract anybody, being very thoughtful for the agents you're bringing into the company, because I've seen it with a lot of brokerage owners. If you bring the wrong agents in, it can cause a huge problem in the long run for your brokerage. So the fact that you've been able to strategically bring 200 agents to your brokerage that fit your culture, that's incredible. And I think that's great advice for anyone that's listening.
I would, if you don't know your culture of your firm, I would say I would do a session. We did this about 5-6 years ago, where we did a session where I brought in a friend of mine, and he came in full disclosure, he was doing it as an MBA project. But we validated our culture to say, hey, listen, what do you think our culture is, and how do we communicate that, and how do we market our culture out? And fortunately, the feedback was exactly what our culture is. I actually, as I get older, I do think, I listen to people, and they say, hey, here's who I am. And you're like, you don't have a feel of who you really are. There's a disconnect in what you're putting out there. I would say, if you're a jerk in a listing appointment, be a jerk. If you're a nice person, be a nice person, but don't be a nice person if you're come off as a jerk. You got to be consistent in your themes. And, as a brokerage, it's no different, that you need to match your culture, because people can sniff out most of the time. And if they didn't sniff it out, they'll sniff it out in the first 6 months. If you're putting BS out there, people, you can tell a used car salesman in any industry, at any situation. I don't need to use that as a bad narrative to used car salesmen, but to some degree, honesty is the best quality, and don't feel like you have to do exactly what other people are doing. Because I do think people are looking for authenticity in this market. They're starving for it, literally. So don't just assume that because so-and-so is doing this at their brokerage, that we should be doing it at our brokerage. I think the problem with the internet and social media is everybody always sees. So it's somebody else they think is doing something great or correct, and they imposter themselves into a situation that they say, oh my God, that's working for them, we should work it for ourselves. And I would say, you go back to your cultural tenets and say, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. And maybe this thing that's working over there, we don't have to do that. Or let's see, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it real well. But don't think that we have to do everything in all situations all the time, because you're better off not doing it than doing it halfway.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think I think, there's always the first part is just marketing, getting it out there, sharing who you are. But if you just deliver on what you promise, I mean,
What's up?
I think you already stand out over a big part of not just real estate brokerages, but, businesses across the industries in becoming successful and having that good word behind you at the brokerage. So I do have a question for you. I'm excited to hear this one because like you said, 200 agents, great culture. Seems like you have a lot of stuff in place that a lot of these brokerages, want to get to, or they might be in the same position as you. And so I'm just curious, what is the goals for your company in 2025? Where do you see this going? Do you plan on growing it? More agents? What does that look like for you?
Well, by default, if we're meeting the needs of our community and we're meeting the needs of our agents, then by default we grow because of the same thing from being organic. And in that growth, I do think just in general, I think the market of 2025 will be better than 2024 and 2023 in the Atlanta metro area. So I think that's going to create a lot of opportunity. I do think we'll hopefully because 2023 and 2024 has not been the best years for a lot of people, that creates opportunity for conversations for smaller brokerages. Or, hey, I worked at this national company, they gave me a bunch of scripts. Or, hey, I worked for this national company and gosh, they sold me on a bill of goods and didn't feel right. Or I didn't have a relationship with the broker. Or I didn't have a relationship with the agents. Or gosh, you know what, the office was across town. Or whatever it is that doesn't feel right. Change in 2025 is real and right there. So I would say 100% we're going to grow. How much? I don't know. Do I set numbers to things? No, but thematically, I'm kind of more into themes than I am into actual numbers, even though my background is an engineering degree from Georgia Tech. But I do find if I use those themes across the board for the entire year, I mean, every once in a while you have to adjust if, something like COVID happens, but, pick those themes, follow through with and executing on your plan. And the plan is, hey, listen, we're best when we do organic growth. We have the least amount of retention problems when we do that. We don't have staffing problems to teach people. So let's just keep doing this along the way and see where it ends up. Now, could I grow faster if I was probably more intentional about doing certain things? 100%. But can I make people successful and make more money if I make them successful? Yes. If you get numbers just for the sake of numbers, I mean, yeah, early on I did that, and that's probably a mistake where I tried to get numbers. Oh man, if we could just get to 30, all right. And we took a bunch of part-time agents that didn't sell, and yes, we grew, and it was great. I could tell everybody that we were 30 agents, but at the end of the day, those 30 agents produced a lot less than when I was at 20. A couple of years later, because all those part-time agents left. So I would say intentional training and hiring matters.
Definitely. I love that. And for any brokerage owners who are new, let's say, you were starting from scratch, what advice would you have for yourself, as a brand new brokerage owner?
Well, the blessing with me was I was 26 years old and I didn't know any better. So that was the nice, it was like, what is it? Young enough to think that you can change the world and not jaded enough to not do it. So, but I would say the persistence, like anything else in this business, is persistence and integrity pays off. I mean, if you just keep at it, and there's going to be days that are your highs, there's going to be days that are your lows, just like anything else. And owning your own business, even being a real estate agent, right, versus working in corporate America, the highs are higher and the lows are lower. So if you own your own brokerage, it just magnifies that. And there's going to be somebody that leads you that you trained for 3 years, and that's going to be frustrated. And there's going to be somebody that's was struggling with money, and now all of a sudden they're making $200,000 a year, and you've changed their life, and your advice really impacted their life and their family's life, and it's the best thing you ever did. So like I said, the highs are higher and the lows are lower, but persistence pays off.
Persistence. And if there was like any key things, like maybe like a few things to focus on every day as a brokerage owner, what would you say those would be?
I get up earlier than anybody else.
So get up early.
Get up early.
That answer everything else.
Kind of. That's a maybe a bad answer, but
no, not at all.
I try to because my work days often extend beyond where I want it to. I get up early, try to work out, try to I'm a faith-based person, so I try to make sure that I do something in that realm. So if I work out, do some faith, get cut up with my emails before I see my kids, then which is important to me because I want to be a good father. If I can get all that done before they get up, then I feel from a personal standpoint that I can. But like I said, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow anything, always come back to yourself and make sure that you're being the best version of yourself. And usually that means that helps you in your business and other things of your life. So my version of that is just wake up earlier and handle those things before I handle, clients and people, because I want to make sure I can, literally work on health, my kids, spiritually, before I go out and take on the world.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I think being able to do all of that, the things that really matter at home and stuff, and taking care of your family, being the best version of yourself is probably the best way you can go into any day.
Absolutely.
Makes probably your problems feel more minimal. I started doing some morning things for myself. Yeah, just, some problems aren't as big of problems when you see what really matters in the morning. So
I'm a better human if I go for a run in the morning. I promise you. I do not yell as often. I do not feel beat up. Everybody's happier around me if I ran that morning. So
that's great. All right. Well, Wesley, I appreciate you hopping on here. A lot of really good insight for brokerage owners. I think if you're brand new, maybe you're in the middle of the growth phase, or you're looking to scale to the next level. Maybe you're 100, 200, 300 agents. This has been a great call for a lot of key takeaways. Just for anyone that wants to, learn more about your business or learn more about you, is there a way they can find you online or contact you?
Obviously, go to www.kellerknapp.com. Or feel free to email me at Wesley, WESLEE, at Keller, KELLERKNAPP.com. And I'd happily help anybody, because people helped me before. And I would say, back to my quote, to whom much is given, much is expected. You're supposed to mentor other people. You're supposed to be mentored and mentor other people. That's part of the brokerage business. People did it for me, and now my obligation is to multiply that times 3 to 10 to other people and see where it goes from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wesley.
Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.